what is the difference between those that have it and those that don't? So I was having a discussion today about discipline. And oftentimes people assume that discipline for me is just something that's always been there, that's always come naturally to me. I've just spent my whole life being a disciplined man. And the irony of it is that that's probably couldn't be further from the truth. I have some of the worst impulse control issues that, of that I've seen. I don't think I've ever met anyone with worse impulse control issues than I. You know, if I want it, I get it. If I want to eat it, I eat it. Like, all this kind of stuff. That is how I am wired. And part of the reason why my programming is the way it is, and part of the reason why I am so harsh on these kinds of things is because for myself, and I think this is true of a lot of people, and as I said, I think my impulse control issues are worse than most, but I think it does apply to most people, is that, well, you basically have to remove any option. And I think most people, when we're talking about those who have it and those who don't, fall down because they allow themselves wiggle room. It's always been my problem with if it fits your macros or, intuitive eating or these kinds of things. Because I don't think most people actually have the level of discipline that is required to do those kinds of things and to do them properly. Because when you get into it, when, rubber meets the road, if you have the option of it, if you go, I can entertain the idea of having the wine, the whiskey, the beer, the ice cream, the chocolate, whatever the fuck your chosen vice is. If I can have that as an option, I feel, and I've seen, people will give in more frequently than they won't. Because if it's there, most people don't have the willpower and discipline to not say yes. They don't actually have the discipline to say no to it if there is a plausible reason or option or excuse that they can give themselves. Unlike, look, I've done if it fits your macros. And the reason why I don't teach it, the reason why I don't do it, the reason why I don't like it is, one, I don't think it's healthy overall. I think there are other issues with it. But two, because I did it, and I know many people who do it who are like, well, how can I have my ice cream or, as I said, insert a vice and then fit the rest around it? That they're going to choose the thing, that dopamine chasing option first, and then try and figure out how to fit everything else around said thing. That's the problem. That when you open yourself up to the options, to give yourself the options of the vice, well, usually shit falls apart. Usually then you have it, And I think there's a great fucking problem with that. Whereas if you're like on the animal-based diet, in greatness, chasing greatness, I eat meat, I eat fruit. If it doesn't fall under that category, I don't do it. It makes it really fucking simple. Makes it really easy to make those decisions, because it's like, does it fit that category? Yes, no. If it's not yes, then you don't eat it. It makes it much simpler, and it allows you to follow through on your discipline on a greater level. And I think this is part of it, that you have to make really clear, structured points for yourself. Because I find that when you have the options, you allow the grey zones, it's the grey zones that people abuse. And I think it's human nature. I think it's just within human nature. Like, if you utilize other programs, and I've seen this, and people are like, oh, well, you need to work out every day. People will be like, well, I went for a walk. I did some yoga. They're like, these kinds of things. And I'm like, they have benefits. They are certainly good things to do. But that is a very different statement to, I lifted weights today. I pushed my body to a progression point. I did those kinds of things. That gray zone opens it up to many different things. It's the same as my weighted walk. It must be minimum 10% body weight, and you have to go out as hard as you can, and you're trying to reach new levels every single day. There are stipulations within that for a reason. Because, well, that's the whole point, that we're trying to stipulate that you are achieving different things, that you are really specifically doing it. But, like I had a guy who was like, does mowing the lawn count the same as going for a weighted walk or a workout? And I was like, fuck no. It has to be a structured, specific, pre-planned workout. It's when you create the gray zones that things get skewed. It's the same concept with the nutrition. So once you get past the first 6 weeks of chasing greatness, you get into this and you're allowed 10 days off within every 126 days. 10 days to eat whatever the fuck you want. Right? But they must be pre-planned. They must be planned ahead of time. It cannot be, man, I've had a really, really shit day today, and I just want to eat some pizza and have some whiskey and just kick back on the couch. That doesn't fucking cut it. That is not what we are doing here. It has to be, and look, if that's what you choose to use it on, that's fine, but you have to plan it ahead of time. As this Friday, I'm gonna buy this pizza, I'm gonna have whiskey, etc. Because it's the gray zones. Because when you can just chalk it up to whatever day you want, I find that people are like, well, I'll just use one now, and I'll use one now. Oh, I've used my 10 days already, maybe I'll just, one more won't hurt. And it's that backsliding gray zone. And it's why I find, and it's the way I structure things, that things are really, really regimented. And look, I have had this discussion where people are like, well, not everyone's brain works like that. Some people need, different boundaries and things, and freedom. And I was like, do they? Or do they want comfortability? Do they want easiness? Do they want gentle and niceness? This program isn't designed to just be like, oh, okay, I'm doing a little bit better. And I will never begrudge people who want to just do a little bit better, because it's better than fucking nothing. But this is about, as it's called, chasing fucking greatness. This isn't going to be gentle. It isn't going to be soft. It isn't going to encourage mediocrity. It is about chasing greatness. And your greatness might vary from my greatness, but it was never going to be gentle. And if you are someone who is wanting to chase greatness, who is going to want to be in the 1%, the upper echelon, in whatever that looks like, and honestly, half the time I'm just talking about fitness. I'm just talking about health and fitness. But it requires you making different choices. It requires you making decisions about what matters most to you. And it's like so many of these conversations we have, they keep going in circles because it's always about that same concept. It comes back to that same point, that it's going to require a different headspace. It's going to require you showing up as a different person to get this shit done. The reason why most people never see long-term results, the reason why most people never achieve a great physique or get into great shape or even get really healthy is because it's fucking difficult. And it requires you standing out. It requires you making very different decisions to the majority of people. It requires you showing up in a different way, with a different mindset. It's what separates those who have it and those who don't. And that's why you have to have a paradigm shift about this. You have to have the paradigm shift about what you are going to want from this and how you are going to show up with this. Because you have to be a different beast. And it's like, going back to if it fits your macros. You need to stop thinking about how can I get in the food that has the mouth pleasure, that, brings me that dopamine hit all the time. What you need to think about is what is going to fuel my body to produce the best possible performance? What is going to fuel my body to make it feel its best and function at its highest level? And also, to make that pleasure from food special. To make it truly mean something. I'm not saying you're never going to have that chocolate again, or the whiskey, or the pizza, or whatever the fuck it is. You can, but you need to make it mean something. If you're doing it every single day, that's a fucking addiction. That's not, I do it because I need enjoyment in my life. That's a fucking addiction. And so we need to view it differently. And as I said, there are 10 days off every 126. It's literally doing it 90% of the time. But people think it seems crazy because people don't actually break it down and look at it that way. It means you're on 90% of the time and you get the 10% off. Fractionally under, if you want to get technical on it. But it's a different level of viewing it. And it means when you do have those days off, those meals, those eating out mean something. They're special. And you get true enjoyment and satisfaction from the food, at least in the moment. You'll also realize how fucking detrimental that shit is to you, because it's going to hit you for 6. I can 100% guarantee you it's going to hit you for 6. I was talking to one of my guys about it today, and I was like, whenever people tell me that eating sugar or junk food or processed food or those kinds of things doesn't have a detrimental effect on your body and doesn't lower your ability to function, I would say give up sugar for 6 weeks and then have some and see what the fuck it does to your body. And I know, I will cop flack for that. I know there are going to be people in the comment section fucking having a whinge about it, but just fucking do it. Experience it for yourself and tell me that your body doesn't react negatively to it. This is what we need to start looking at. We need to start looking at how we are fueling our body. What is the best choices? What are the choices that are going to make you function the best? You need to shift your paradigm around how you view all these kinds of things and create those really strict and rigid structures around how you live your life, around how you show the fuck up. Because when you can do it that way, life hits differently. You show up better. And when you remove the options from it, you also remove as much as possible. Don't get me wrong, they're still going to require willpower to, especially in the initial phases, to ingrain it. But it requires less willpower because you aren't making decisions around it. That's why I talk about a zero choice mentality. When you enter these programs, there is a zero choice mentality. Once the decision has been made, and the decision is made at the beginning, when the motivation is high, when the will is strong, when you are fired up and you are ready to fucking go. Once that decision is made, that decision is made. You don't then have to have debates with yourself. You don't have to then have arguments with yourself about what you're going to do today, whether you're going to do that, how hard you're going to push. The program is the program and it's done. And it's this one, and I picked this up from Jocko Willink, and I've said this to people and they struggle with it, and I've seen people listen to Jocko and they've struggled with it, but it is discipline equals freedom. People are like, nah, it's restrictive and it holds you into this tight thing. And I'm like, no, it is fucking freedom. because it removes the choices and the debates on things that you don't want. If you've made the decision and you've got the discipline to back it up and you've ingrained the discipline, it's the freedom, because you don't need to argue with yourself. You've already made the decision for your highest good. Because you're not making these decisions based on something that's going to be negative for you. You're not making these decisions based on things that don't push you forward and don't progress you towards the things you want in life. You're making these decisions based on reaching the goals that you want to reach. So it creates freedom because you don't need to ask the question every day. You know? It's like for my workouts. I don't ask the question if I'm going to work out today, whether I feel like working out today. The question is, what time? That is the only decision that needs to be made. And that's because my days are up and down. I know every single day when I wake up, I'm going to eat an animal-based diet. I am going to go for a weighted walk. I am going to do a weighted workout. I'm going to drink 4 liters of water, and I'm going to take a daily photo. There are other habits that have been added along the way in the different phases of 126, but those ones for my physical capacity, they're non-negotiable. They're fucking happening. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to question it. That's the end of the story. And it makes it much, much simpler, because the only question is what time. And look, if you had a set schedule, I would just make it the same time every single day. I'd make it really simple. Then there are no questions. There is no questioning your feelings or your thoughts or what happened or anything like that. It's just what time is getting done. And once you become so ingrained in that, once that becomes your new normal, well, things get easier. Things get simpler. Because not only do I not have to question it anymore, I've been doing it so long that it's just part of my day. It's part of who I am. My family knows. My friends know. My clients know. The question is, have you done it yet? That's the only question. It's not, will you? It's, have you done it? Or can I join you? What time are you working out? That's it. And that becomes the separator. As we discussed, what's the difference between those who have it and those who don't? Well, it just started with one decision. It started with one decision and you ingrained it, and that was the end of the story. And discipline is built. It's built day by day by day. And it's a muscle that will degenerate incredibly quickly if you stop using it. So you must use it every single day. You must work on it every single day. You must keep progressing forward every single day. And you must make the decision to do it. And if you feel like you have no discipline, if you feel like you've lost it, you just have to make that first decision and follow through. And then keep working on that discipline muscle every single day. And I've listed off many different ways in the past on how you can work on that. You can build discipline through weights, through weighted walks, through sauna, through ice baths, through fasting, through, there are 1,001 different ways that you can build it, that you can build your willpower and your discipline. But the simplest answer, in my honest opinion, and look, clearly I'm going to plug my own product because it's why we're here, but you could do this with anyone. But it would be get in a program, especially the one that is every single day. Get yourself a coach who's going to hold you accountable. Get some fucking skin in the game. Money, accountability, whatever it is that's going to hold you accountable to it. And then fucking do it. Fucking follow through. The initial discipline can be built very quickly. Good couple of weeks of just getting used to it can build that for you. But to truly ingrain it, to make it a habit, to make it something long-term, I honestly believe takes 126 days. It takes 126 days to replace a negative habit with a positive habit and ingrain it into you. That's why we start with 6 weeks to prove the concept to you, and then we roll into 126 to greatness. And that's where the real game changing happens. Because in the first 6 weeks, we get incredible results. Like Greg, who's down 14 kilos. Like Ray, who lost 3.5 kilos in 3 days. Like Brad, who's finally out of pain. Like Andy, who lost 2 kilos in the first 2 days. There are results like this that make you go, huh, this really fucking works. That's what the 6 weeks is for, and then we just ingrain it. Then we build upon that, and we build upon that, and we build upon it. And from there, you start to see the truly, truly incredible results. So if you're ready for that, shoot me a message. Let's get you into Chasing Greatness Daily. Let's start that process, and let's see who you can become on the other side. Now, if you're not quite there yet, click the link in my bio, grab my top 10 tools to transform your mental toughness. And lastly, as always, if this spoke to you, if this resonated with you, please hit like, comment, subscribe, and share. But most importantly, please hit that subscribe button, because the majority of people are not subscribed. And like everything in Chasing Greatness Daily, I am here every single day, working from the front, sharing from my experiences, sharing from the experiences of my guys as we go through this process. So please hit that subscribe button, because I'll be back again tomorrow, and I want to see you there. Until then.